Correct, we select on the set beats and rhymes that are both in check. The ingredients are coming correct. We select on the set beats and rhymes that are both in check. The ingredients are coming correct. We select on the set beats and rhymes that are both in check.
And welcome back to SCL 3, a fantastic match versus Exodunks and Insurance Fraud Inc., with Exodunks taking it. And I have to apologize to Exodunks. I got their team mixed up with Warlords of the Deep. It is actually El Diablo Rojo and Sabotage for that team. I apologize deeply to that team for that. Yep. So congratulations to them, and I will give it to our commentators, Bacchanalian and Apathetic Brent, for their comments, as well as our guest, Grammar Nancy from SomerBlink. What did you all think of that match?
Well, I think it was interesting. Again, one of the other guys that used to be Rocapel, we saw on the Exodunks team, Von Falkenhorst, and we saw, exactly what we thought. You said, you bank Crucifier, we're going to see Sentinels. We saw Sentinels. The Sentinels on the Insurance Fraud side tried to track and disrupt those the battleships, but with that many, 3 of them on the field, that's just a lot of DPS. Even if you shut down 1 or 2 of them, you still have a lot of damage coming in. And I got to say, the Vindicator, for instance, when it was being primaried, we thought it might go down. It did a really good job of pulling range. We had probably the Chronos both webbing down the Legions, the 90% webs, and he just kind of walked away and got out of range before he went down. So it was well played on the side of Exodunks.
And I think their target calling was pretty good overall. They went after the Prophecy first to get the links off the field, so those Legions wouldn't be such hard targets. And they were really chunking those Legions. The 2 Chronai also had a single energy transfer each, so I'm guessing the low slots on the 2 Chronai, and most likely the Vindicator, would have been something like single or double large armor rep plus a large ancillary armor rep. So their self-tank is actually very stout, especially because the Chronos gets the boost to effectiveness on the self-reps. Another thing that I wanted to point out, that probably the only thing I would have changed, is early in the game have 1 or 2 damps dedicated to that Sentinel so they can get the tracking disruptors off the field as quickly as possible. But they did good in just completely ignoring the logistics, because when you have, north of 4,000 DPS between the 3 battleships, you don't need to worry about the Oneros.
It was a really interesting match. I love seeing no Logi teams. They're fantastic, and I think it was right. Someone said before the match that it requires a high degree of manual piloting, and that's very important in the tournament. But it's great to be able to see a Vindicator or a Chronos web down targets and get her to DPS range and actually save their ship, regardless of having no Logi on the field. It's an awesomely exciting match for the viewers. And it's fantastic to see. I hope to see more of that.
Absolutely. One thing I would point out that some of you may have seen in stream chat, one of those sides was running ECM burst, so all the commentators, everybody lost lock a couple times during that match. So if there's a little bit of stuttering in the commentary, something like that, that might have affected it. I know how hard that is having it. Had that happen in week 2, we should have that resolved next time around. Fozzie is going to hack up our shuttles and give us much more sensor strength, so it shouldn't be an issue next time.
Pretty strong showing from Exodunks, though, in round 1 of match 3. They did something that tried and true for them. Throughout the Neo and SCL 1, they've been very prolific with Vindicators and Chronoses, so it's definitely good to go with what you know when you don't know what the enemy's going to bring.
Yes, and we have the bans for our next match which will be Test Alliance Please Ignore versus Pandemic Legion, which will be match 4, round 1 of the SCL3. But first, just a quick reminder about our trivia sponsored by SomerBlink. The trivia question for this hour is, what are the real names of the founders for the pirate group the Goristas? And these two are known by nicknames, but we are looking for their real names. So you are going to send point zero 0.01 ISK to Miss Luke Gods with your answer for that trivia question, and the winner will win a Humatos, which is a Blood Raider noob frig, and we will be announcing the winner after this next match coming up for Test Alliance versus Pandemic Legion. And since we are... Oh, go ahead.
I just want to take a minute to give a shout out to some of the people we have working behind the scenes. Ben Booley is given the daunting task of herding all of the team captains and making sure that they've got everything they need, and Nam, who is running your stream and camera. So please show some appreciation to them. They're putting in a lot of work and giving up a lot of free time to make this pull this off as smoothly as it has been.
Indeed, it's a little more hectic for both of them this time around because we changed the format and we have the matches coming a lot more rapid fire. Those of you who saw week 1 and 2 probably noticing this, which means pretty much Ben Bully is probably constantly in combo with up to 4 people at once, trying to coordinate bans, when people are moving into beacons, telling Fozzie when to move people, all that kind of stuff. It's actually pretty hectic behind the scenes, so big shout out to those guys.
And speaking of Fozzie, not to forget him, he's been the guy who's been moving everybody, who's been making sure all the teams are squared away. Did a point check on one team that I believe went 1 point over. It's great to have CCP involvement in tournaments like these.
It is, and of course, a big wave to Sarui, who is Miss Luke Gods, and of course, Sarui Nihil, Sakura Nihil, who are helping out in our chats as part of our support staff too. So thank you so much, and of course, a big thank you to our sponsors, SomerBlink, CCP Games, and of course, Lorkin Desal.
Yeah,
So,
I feel like I need to be having a third monitor or another computer or something. I can't be on the TQ chat, being sitting here on one client watching on Sissy the tournament, where I have the stream open on another, and Twitch chat is just too much going on. It's so great shout out to those guys for being able to keep up with all that.
you're not playing Eve hard enough. But speaking of playing Eve hard enough, again, the bans for Test Alliance Please Ignore, Ishtar and Proteus, and for Pandemic Legion, Mollis and Carries. So what do we think about these bans?
Well, I think that from Test Alliance, Ishtar and Proteus, that's very, very centered on the Tinker Tank that Pandemic Legion ran both in SCL2 and at the FanFest tournament. But I think that other than the Proteus, the Ishtar is a very misplaced ban because with the Dominix changes, giving them a optimal aim bonus on drones, we're much more likely to see Dominix-based sentry setups rather than hack-based sentry setups.
Yeah, on the other side, the other side's bans here. The PL bans, Mollis and Carries, they're just saying no damps for you. So there will be no bonus damps unless somebody steps it up to cruiser hulls. So
normally that would make me think that they're not planning on running a drone setup, but at the same time we saw Shadoo's team PLB lose, ban out, I believe it was Carries and Mollis in their second match against Warlords of the Deep. Generally speaking, damps aren't that effective unless you're using a target painting auxiliary ship to assign those drones, like a Myrmidon with a target painter.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see a missile setup actually with them not wanting damps. All right, it's something that can engage from range and stay away from a brawl comp. Because we've seen a lot of brawl comps, we haven't seen much range comp yet besides the drone setup. So.
Well, with no information on what they're actually going to be, it's also very likely that they could pull out cruise golems.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, we haven't seen that yet in this tournament, and it was a popular, in other tournaments, in past tournaments, we've seen quite a lot of that. So,
and it's even more viable now because cruise missiles, I believe, are doing 25% more damage than they were in the previous tournament, thanks to our Odyssey changes.
And we could actually see the Raven too. It's another one that's been changed. It could be an interesting ship to see. So.
I've always been a fan of the Scorp Navy issue. I think that it's the Raven always wanted to be, so maybe we'll see one of those. That'd be pretty fantastic.
Again, with the bans, it's good to keep in mind that, as it was mentioned earlier, a team can ban what they plan on bringing. There's a bit of meta mind games going on, so I don't know if we'll see that, but it's kind of interesting to think that this isn't maybe as straight up as everybody might think.
Yeah, you saw the Proteus ban the last match, and the team that banned the Proteus shows up in blaster boats, so they may be trying to fake them out a little as well.
And it's also worth mentioning you have the Test Alliance Please Ignore team ran by Duckrat, along with his co, and I don't want to say they are kind of a newer team to the whole tournament scene. They're very inclusive, and so a lot of their members may not have as many skill points as a more established team like Pandemic Legion, who's being run by Gobbins. So that's going to create an interesting dynamic as well. But when you have an alliance as large as Test Alliance Please Ignore, you can find players for the setups you're looking for. So it's a different kind of, there are two different team dynamics going on, two different experience levels too. But even with that, I think that a lot of the changes that are happening on the Sissy server kind of level the playing field with that, because neither teams have had much time to get their game plan together since the new patch.
Well, and is this not also one of wasn't there a falling out in the HBC, and so the two of these teams run opposite sides, and we'll be slugging it out for the first time?
Test Alliance Please Ignore and Pandemic Legion were once blues, but have now gone neutral. So there's a little behind the scenes going on with this, and who knows how much of that is going to affect the actual tournament, but there is something there.
Well, I gotta say, get shout outs. We're up 502 on the stream, which is the highest we've had all day. I'd like to see us hit 600. So, Test Alliance folks, get all your people on there. Pandemic Legion, get all your people on watching. This should be an exciting match. Starting to see ships on grid, and starting to see some interesting ships on grid. Actually, some of the things we talked about. Here they go. They are landing. So we'll be passing the studio here shortly.
We are, the teams are warping in to their perspective beacons, so we're starting to see them come on in. I see Duckrat and Grath Teclin on the field. So I have to admit my stupidity. I was saying things on the forums. I was posting on the forums, good posting, of course, and he complimented the SCL in the commentary. And I made the comment, oh, that means so much coming from, a veteran such as yourself. And of course, Daddy Shadu had to put a stop to that right away and inform me that Grath is not a tournament veteran. So I kind of got busted on my lack of knowledge there.
Oh, it's all good. And Shadu definitely being a veteran of tournament veterans. I guess he's been around for a while. He's in commentary. In fact, he did commentary at the Fest tournament and spent most of it trolling Elise's team fairly hilariously, so he knows his stuff for sure.
Oh, I felt so bad for the logistics pilot on Pandemic Legion. Once it was over, he literally walked up to the guy, put their microphone in his face, and said, "You've lost the tournament for your team. How do you feel?" And there's a camera on the guy's face, and he's like, "Bad."
Yeah,
poor thing.
On day one, which didn't get streamed, I mean, he's literally walking around behind the Pandemic Legion, guys' computers, yelling at them things like, "Come on, you have buttons to push. You're not flying a Nix. You can't just launch fighter bombers and blow things up. Use your prop mod, use your web, use your guns." It was just, it was quite funny to watch, but I did feel bad for the PL pilots getting trolled that hard.
Well, speaking of the PL pilots, it looks like Test Alliance Please Ignore and Pandemic Legion are both on the field. So we are going to go ahead and toss things over to our fantastic EU team over in the commentary box with Ellender and Selderain here on SCL 3. You are now watching Match 4, Round 1.
Everyone, welcome